Survival is hell, not magic. By Dark0592. Chapter 8. The Beginning of the End. Support.
There you are, sister. You had everyone worried when you didn't return last night.
Luna said when Celestia returned to the makeshift outpost near Canterlot.
Captain, take these to the research department immediately. It should speed along our progress. I'm sorry, sister. I'll explain later.
Celestia said.
Are you alright, Princess? You seem exhausted.
Spike said.
Even though I had the first good night's sleep in days, I guess I am. My capital city, along with half of its inhabitants, are dead, Spike. When we finally cleared of threats and the toxin, we still have to rebuild and repair.
Celestia replied.
Sister, you know once that happens, things will get better.
Luna said.
I know, but for now, I'm just sick of things going so badly when I leave my people on their own.
Celestia said. What do you mean, Princess? Shining said.
I don't have any real input for the cure to the disease that started this all, so I let my scientists do as they pleased with it. I thought my people didn't need me to hover over their shoulders like a scolding teacher at times whenever something important is happening.
Celestia said, sitting on a chair and putting a hand to her forehead as if it pained her.
You may not have been there the entire time, but that doesn't mean you couldn't have known it wouldn't work the way it did.
Luna said.
You don't understand. My scientists told me the cure changed in one of their experiments. They found it out not long after they started administering it. They don't know how, but the toxin effects were added later. If I was there, I would have detected the difference.
Celestia said.
Whoa, wait. Are you saying someone sabotaged it?
Dash asked.
I don't know. It could have been a slow-acting change from something in it, or someone could have done it on purpose. We can't know for certain.
Celestia said.
Princess? Just because there's a possibility that you could have stopped it, doesn't mean that it's your fault.
Fluttershy said softly.
Fluttershy's right. Don't beat yourself up for something like that. You were trying to give your people some space to work freely and not seem demanding.
Applejack said.
You should listen to them, sister. I bet Twilight would say something along those lines. Now, I believe you and your scientist team were near a breakthrough, so I suggest you go to them.
Luna said. Celestia sighed slightly, but she smiled and nodded before exiting towards the area the scientist team had acquired for their use. It wasn't until nightfall when the princess and her team were disturbed. Princess, you need to come to the watchtower and see this, Shining said.
Can it wait?
Celestia asked. I'm not sure, but I don't think so, Shining replied. Celestia looked at her team for a moment before nodding and stepping out of the doorway with Shining.
Tell me what you know.
Celestia said as they ascended the stairs of the watchtower their outpost was built around. We're not quite sure why, but there are a few spots that are starting to get similar, but it was the fountain that was first, Shining explained, handing her a telescope when they reached the top. She quickly found the fountain and saw that instead of its old pristine flow, or its more recent sickly green, was now a slightly glowing red.
She's preparing early,
Celestia said softly, as she looked around and saw the small body of water in the park was similarly covered. What was that, Princess? Shining asked.
I'm positive it's Twilight. She's starting to spread the antitoxin in her blood to the isolated bodies of water around the city. This should slowly absorb the toxin, though once we figure out how to filter it from the water, she can dilute the river which runs through the entire city.
Celestia explained. How close are you anyways? Shining asked as he took the lens from her eye.
We've managed to filter most of it out and eliminate its acidic properties, but there's enough of it left to still make people feel sick if they try drinking it. Her blood is strange. It has more elements and a different makeup than normal blood. I've got a secondary batch working on other properties it could hold.
Celestia said. I see. I should let you get back to it then. I was afraid this new development wouldn't bode well, but it seems the opposite. Shining said.
Thank you for showing me, Captain. If anything else major changes, let me know.
Celestia said, handing the telescope back and turning to the doorway. She got hurt again, didn't she? Shining suddenly said before she left. Celestia sighed and turned to him.
She asked me not to tell anyone unless they noticed it in the research logs. Though Starsoul did most of it this time. She had a teleporting accident, but she replaced the limbs with biomechanical ones.
Celestia said. Limbs? Shining said.
Don't worry. You will most likely be on the team I take with me as escort when we go to Twilight with a way to filter the blood out of the water. She can talk to you about it then, but I fear if I try to explain my mood, will only dampen again.
Celestia said. I understand. Thank you. Shining said. Celestia nodded and exited the room.
You know, in what I remember, the square looking at my time, that fountain would look rather beautiful like that.
Starswirl said as they sat near the fountain in the city.
I think it would too, but I'm a bit exhausted now. I may not be low on blood, but regenerating all of that so quickly is making me tired and hungry.
Twilight said, getting to her feet and cracking her back.
I can only imagine. I hope they find a filter soon. I wish to see this place thriving again to see you happy. When you've told me of your life before this, I would like nothing more than to see it in action.
Starswirl said.
You and me both, buddy. Things won't be exactly the same, but at least I'd be able to relax and be glad I hear someone coming, because after all this they'd be a friend and not a gas trying to eat my guts.
Twilight said.
These instincts you've acquired will take a bit getting used to not being needed. You know that, right?
Starswirl said.
Of course, but I've adopted instincts plenty of times. For example, when I was a little girl, I developed instincts that helped me avoid other people. I got rid of those almost as soon as I arrived in Ponyville. Then, there was the time when I turned 16, I joined the Mage Guard for 3 years. We had a lot of action then, so I was kind of experienced, so I got rid of those kinds of instincts. Stuff like that.
Twilight said.
Well, I hope it goes as well as then, because the instincts you developed could possibly ruin a friendship or hurt someone you care about.
Starswirl said.
I know, and I won't let that happen. It's been a few hours, and this area already seems to be a little thinner. I can't wait until the toxin is all gone and the city revives.
Twilight said, looking up.
Neither can I. We should get going now. I imagine some of our friendly neighbors would be interested in a glowing red fountain, and you're exhausted.
Starswirl said.
You're right. If I remember, I found some younger wine my last forage trip, and I found a can of my favorite soup.
Twilight said as she got to her feet. As she extended her wings, she looked over to the barrier rather suddenly.
Do you sense something?
Starswirl asked.
I sense a familiar presence waiting just outside the barrier. Thinking back on who I've met in the past, it kind of feels like my friends, since I can definitely feel Spike. If they prod it, they're calling me. But they might just be getting ready.
Twilight said as she shot into the air and slid her visor down and turned the optics on.
What do you see?
Starswirl asked.
I can see my brother, Spike, my friends, and a group of royal guards with what looks like the thing I made for Spike. They're either preparing to come help me, or they're preparing to come find me. They're making a camp, so I don't think they'll be coming until at least tomorrow.
Twilight said as she pushed her visor up.
Let's hope they're better trained than your assistant's team.
Starswirl said as they turned towards the house.
Twilight, I do believe that group of guards breached the barrier.
Starswirl said, waking Twilight up the next morning.
I didn't feel a breach.
Twilight said, sitting up. Before Starswirl could answer, there was a sound she recognized as a magical explosion and a building collapsing.
You must have been in too deep a sleep to feel them passing through, but they're definitely in now.
Starswirl said.
Let's go then.
Twilight said. She quickly got dressed and left the house and rocketed into the air towards the column of smoke as she began charging the steam rifle cannon. Damn it! There's too many of them! Shining yelled as he hid behind a riot shield as Luna and Celestia flung spells from their cover as unstable energy battered against the lines of shields the other guards set up for the spellcasters to attack from safety.
Shit! There's another flyer coming in!
Someone yelled and prepared to fling a spell at the flare, but Spike stopped her.
That's not an enemy,
he exclaimed. Shocked, they all looked at a massive purple spike at least 5 feet long come crashing into one of the many specters, impaling its head to the ground. The spike exploded to create a hail of smaller spikes to impale everything in a well-sized radius except the guards. Half of the creatures fell as the spikes evaporated and bled back towards the sky from where they came. Twilight used a burst of speed from her new modified steam thrusters to smash into the ground with her shield to create a shockwave that knocked all the gas off their feet. Everyone stared in awe as Twilight gave them a friendly salute and wave with a smile into her mask before turning towards the recovering creatures and extending the longsword blade as Starswirl swooped down in the form of a massive purple dragon.